Hello. I hope everyone's having a lovely, lovely Tuesday. What's up, Nat? Nerf Herder Matt, Dark Angel, Master James Kenobi. How's it going? Now I have to make sure this thing is showing again. What's up, Super Reese? Choco said that he would join this week, but I'm not so sure. Are you guys ready for Halloween? You guys have costumes? I don't dress up. Or rather, I don't have anything to dress up. Anything to use as dress up. Except for my Jedi robes. Perfect Timing, Insurgency Rising, issue 4 just dropped. Am I gonna have to read that live? Got my Mando suit ready to pass out candy to the neighborhood younglings. This is the way. Right on. Is the Mando suit gonna pass out candy? Or are you gonna hand out candy in the Mando suit? Darth Angel says, will you dress up on Friday? I don't know. I have things to do and I don't have plans to trick or treat. I don't typically go trick-or-treating. Okay, same. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when it was, what age it was. But at some point I just stopped. Like I still hand out candy, but I just kind of stopped caring about trick-or-treating. It would also, I mean, I grew up moving a lot, and so I was part of like several different neighborhoods and never kind of stayed still enough until like 2006, and that's when I was old enough to like not care about it anymore. Hand out candy in this suit. Should have clarified. Gotcha. How's it going, Spooky Kitty? Don't really do Halloween in Australia. People have parties and events, but trick-or-treating isn't really a thing for us. I would assume that it's different across the world, right? I think Halloween is particularly American, and then like there's Dia de los Muertos in like Latin America, like a Festival of the Lost Souls, and they all celebrate them a little bit differently, right? I would 10 out of 10 still do it if adults could, because who doesn't want to dress up and get free candy? Actually, you know what? I think that's the single most important qualifier for me. I don't have a candy sweet tooth anymore. Which is odd because I vape pretty sweet flavors. But like I don't crave chocolate or candy like I used to. Although if you handed me a Reese's cup or a Butterfinger, I'd down it. But I never go out of my way to get those things. Just find the apple houses. I don't even have a craving for apple houses. I sure do hope that Choco shows up. Because I'm sure he could use some R&R time hanging out with the chat. You guys have anything you want to talk about? I mean, we can talk about some Glass Abyss if you guys have read it yet. Though I don't want to spoil anything if you guys haven't. We're here for you if he doesn't. True, and I appreciate that. Just makes it easier for me because Yoda's Hut's all about chatting with you guys and hanging out. Unless we have something like really, really special to plan out. We're getting really close to episode 200, and so we really got to start planning our spicy noodle challenge. Glass Abyss is a great book. It is probably the best book we have of Mace, which it doesn't say much because there's only two books, one in Legends, one in canon, but it is the better one of the two. As long as Spooky Kitty doesn't show up, that guy's annoying. Well, it depends. What does a Spooky Kitty look like? I'll be the judge of whether or not they're annoying. Can't wait for that. I can, but I can't put it off any longer. We hit the goal. We hit the like goal like a couple of weeks ago. And in particular, Choco lost the bet like months ago. So he should have done his spicy noodle challenge already, but the guy doesn't do anything. I've listened to it twice now. So much gold in it. Lots of gold. Like, it's really, really good. And there's a certain part of the book that I do want to talk about, but I'll give it a couple more days. But it has to do with Mace and Anakin, and I feel like it dispels a lot of people's kind of preconceived notions about Mace and Anakin. And I can already tell that not a lot of people will be ready for that. Like a kitty, but with spooky glowy eyes? I mean, that's not so bad. Depends on what they do with those spooky glowy eyes. Did you check out Star Wars The First Resistance yet? I don't think I... Is that a comic? I am so behind on the comics. Oh, is this it's a D&D campaign, isn't it? I remember you saying something about that, and I've been super busy. Lots of stuff to read, lots of things to keep up with. Apart from work. I wonder how many episodes they're in, though. 44 episodes. They started... Oh, there's some one-shots I can listen to. I shall and I will. I like their logo. It's a mix between the Jedi Order, Mythosaur, and the Empire, and then a mouse droid. They kind of just like got every logo ever and put it there. Mind control. It's how I get my stupid owner to type this for me. Gotcha. This playlist is cool. It kind of matches Yoda's hut in a way that it's like, if you saw Yoda's hut on Dagobah, this is the music that would play back. But it's also like very apt for Halloween. Are you guys gonna be... Have you guys read the Glass Abyss for this Friday's episode of Dyad and the Force? Of course, when we cover books on Dyad and the Force, we don't really go too detailed. But there will be like book spoilers for sure. I'm here to spread the word of Cade Atticus Skywalker, the coolest Skywalker. Spread the word, man. Did you ever finish Outlaws, and do you recommend it? Bought it but haven't played due to Black Myth Wukong. Yes, I have finished Outlaws and I do recommend it. I have problems with the gameplay, some aspects of the gameplay, but essentially it's you in the Star Wars universe kind of playing fast and loose with the underworld and the various criminal factions, and you're able to run around in Tatooine, go to Lars Homestead. You're able to run around a small part of Kijimi, Akiva. You can roam around a lot of planets of Star Wars and just kind of live in the universe. And that's always been a huge selling point for me just from the start. I did enjoy the story though. Everyone should read Legacy of the Force. I personally feel it's a better framework for potential sequel trilogy. I don't agree. Well, I've only read like two books from Legacy. Oh no, not Legacy of the Force. Well, the reason why I don't agree is that everything from Cade Skywalker, you're probably going to give me flack for this. Everything from Cade, Anakin, Ben, really, and the new Jedi Order, and then like from Fate to Legacy, just it felt like well, really, it felt like fan fiction, to be honest. And to some degrees, a lot of Star Wars feels like fan fiction, but I'm kind of deeply interested in where they're going with the sequels in terms of Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and what she set up with Balin and Shin, Heir to the Empire, and how it all connects to what will the sequel trilogy and then post sequel trilogy. Because I think you might think it's a better framework for a potential sequel trilogy, but I think that they've done a better job of going off of what George's timeline was and making a sequel out of that. So Cade Atticus is like a descendant of Cade Skywalker, is that right? Hey, how's it going, VGC rating with party of 1? How's it going? So truth be told, Chaco is the Legends expert here. I've read like 2 books of Fate of the Jedi, 1 book from New Jedi Order, all of the books and comics from the Old Republic, because the Old Republic is my favorite era from Legends. I have read Heir to the Empire as well, and I feel like what they're doing with it now, especially since Ahsoka exists and what George did with the Clone Wars, I think what they're doing with it now matches up a lot better in terms of a post Return of the Jedi world. Just me today, but one day I shall have to. What did you miss? Nothing, we've just been talking. Normal, just chatting. VGC, do you stream? What do you stream? Unless you just rated. I have to be sure to follow you. God, nice. You need to get outlawed soonish. You should. If you like being in the Star Wars universe, you should. Hello, Chase. Oh, hi. I'm a recovering Star Wars podcaster, so it's refreshing seeing shows like mine. What do you mean recovering? I have a tattered history of Star Wars games. Ruined my career. Well, just everything with moderation, right? My career is in severe hold because the game industry wants to be... Well, I wouldn't blame it on the game industry. I would blame it on the leadership of those in charge within the game industry that has largely created an environment that is volatile. In a sense that, like, there's layoffs like every month. And I hope that we recover. Stopped podcasting about Star Wars around Last Jedi. Used to be with Forcecast and a few others. Ah, gotcha. It was exhausting breaking through the noise. Still exhausting. But I think we do it, you know. I think we do it because new fans of Star Wars are made every day. Whether they come in with the Mandalorian, they come in with the Acolyte, or they're going to come in with Skeleton Crew. There needs to be spaces like ours for them to be a fan. For them to be like, okay, now I'm going to watch the movies and I need good people to talk to. We need spaces that welcomes all of Star Wars. When are you going to become a Star Citizen? I'm not too big of a fan of, like, Starship stuff. You should know. I sucked at squadrons. And I try to fast travel as much as possible. I finally started Dragon Ball and I had no idea how cute that show is. It's pretty good. I actually only watched the first episode, but the flashbacks and the reanimated scenes from the Boo Saga, crisp. But then they had issues and lost all my contacts when they fired 50% of the people I was gunning for an internship, but alas, it was not meant to be. Forcecast was Gucci back in the day. I think I remember too. But there's more to it than that. I know, but when you and Cal own like flight sticks, I kind of feel like that's the crux of it. You know? There's more to Outlaws than standing in Lars Homestead and waiting for the dual sunset, but I feel like for me, running around in the Star Wars universe is as good as it gets. So I don't know. Even with Starfield, I avoided the ship at all costs. I think I made like a Mandalorian gauntlet fighter and then I was like, oh, this is cool, but like I never really flew it. Oh no, I meant old Dragon Ball, like when Goku was a kid. Oh, well, I mean, pardon me for getting confused because Dragon Ball Daima also has Goku as a kid, but should get you in on some mining and cargo hauling. I mean, if you need like manual labor, I'll come on and do that stuff. But if I'm gonna be flying anything, yeah, no, hard pass. So, do any of you think you guys can stump me on Star Wars trivia? All right, this is going to be tricky. This is the sound that I'm going to play when Chaco makes a startling revelation. Maybe if the Force wills it, who knows, you know? Remember, my knowledge is encompassed across, you know, all of Star Wars that I've been able to take notes on, right? It's not about... I know everything that I have notes on. It's not like I have perfect recall. ¿Listo la caí? Who was the former Sith Lord that was Darth Sidious's master? That, in Legends, is Darth Plagueis. Would you call them a former Sith Lord, though? Because all they did was... I mean, they're formerly alive, but when they were alive, they were a Sith Lord. Here's a lore question to stump the lore masters. Who is Arden Lynn, and what was her major involvement in Star Wars? Yeah, that stumped me already. What color was Tuolanya Luna? It's yellow. Pre-Disney, who was the only Jedi to survive all three Skywalker eras, PT to Legacy? Who's the only Jedi to survive all three? When you say pre-Disney, you mean Legends, right? And he had a cool hat. I don't know any Jedi with... Well, I can't remember any Jedi with hats. What about Jodocast? You want him to you want him to make an appearance in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie? Who did Hondo name his ship after? One of the younglings. One of the younglings from The Gathering. Her name is something that I'll remember in a few seconds. Hold on, there was Gunji. Katuni. I mean, I wouldn't mind Jodocast being in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I honestly want a Mandalorian kind of origin story. Maybe we can get more about how Jango Fett didn't take the Creed in that movie. He was a foundling, and Jaster died in the Civil War, and he was like, "Screw this, I'm out of here." Crook, the whipped Jedi with the cool conical hat. Oh, so he's trying to pose as Jubei. Because the canon answer to your question, Rocketeer, is Quinlan Vos. As of now, also Ahsoka and Cal Kestis. Barring any kind of untimely demise in their stories in a future game or show. Yeah, my Legends knowledge remains strictly backwards in time. For the most part. Crook. Let me look him up. Oh, I remember this dude. He did look awesome. The sequels are bad. Do you think the sequels are bad? No? I love The Last Jedi. The Force Awakens is middling for me, and The Rise of Skywalker is kind of low on my list, but I don't think they're bad. I for the most part, I think they have some and I'll speak about The Rise of Skywalker more on this point. I think they have some really, really big pacing and execution problems. But I mean, the stories were pretty cohesive. There was nothing insulting about them. Each of the sequels are better made movies than the prequels. I would say from a cohesion standpoint they are. Like, you can go from one sequel to the next and follow the story rather simply. Although that's not the case for a lot of people who just didn't pay attention. But I don't think the prequels were designed, or rather planned out, to be cohesive, because it's so jumpy. Right? You have the Phantom Menace at 41, or not 41, at when Anakin's 9, and then you have Attack of the Clones like 10 years later.
Hello there.
And then Revenge of the Sith like another 5 years. So I mean, the prequels was a separate or different story that they were trying to tell. And so there was the need for them to be cohesive was less of a priority. As in the sequels take place one after the other. You know, Last Jedi takes place a couple of weeks after the end of 1, or after the end of 7, and then a year from The Last Jedi to The Rise of Skywalker. So it needed that cohesion. And I know lots of people are going to take my comments on it being cohesive with me, like, with their problems or their declarations that it didn't have a plan. Well, they did. I mean, I have a lot of their IPDG notes from 2014 that outlined everything we saw, but cohesive as in you can go from movie to movie and understand it. And if you didn't understand it, then that's a bad viewership problem. The story of the prequels is great individually, but the filmmaking was more so about technology versus competency due to limitations. Had Lucas waited till 2005 to start making the films after he made the technology, they would have been much better put together. It depends, really. I can't really say or make any declarations like that. I kind of feel like Lucas needed to be reined in a little bit. You know, he needed an editor. Like, not an editor of a movie. He needed an editor that edited him. Trivia: where did Thrawn first meet the Emperor? Are you asking for a planet? Because I know that as soon as he joined, or as soon as he took interest in him, like he met the Emperor in like the Emperor's garden or whatever, a garden or something. I don't remember the planet. I think the technology for the PT is fine. I think he needed a stronger number 2 guy than McCallum. He just needed Marsha Lucas again, to be honest. You know, George excels in world building and like the mythology aspects, but putting it into a structured story with nuanced dialogue and interesting character development, it's a task unto itself. That's why they have editors, and that's why they have all of those checks in the process. Gardens of the Royal Palace. So I was right? It was a garden? I believe it was a garden. In canon, I think they meet in the Imperial Palace when Thrawn is brought to Coruscant. Yeah, that's what I was like. That's what I was trying to recall. I knew it was a garden for sure. It's like Megalopolis, great film, but terrible structure from a pure entertainment standpoint. I'm all for artists making art, and I won't take that away from them. But some people can make the same movie better. I mean, that's why the system has worked for such a long time. Right? You can't have great writers come in and completely make a good movie. You need a good director. You need a good cinematographer. You need a good just overall photography team. You need good sound engineers. Like a plethora of different plethora of elements come together to create the whole of something, you know. And George excelled in the grand arc, the mythology of everything, but he needed a storyteller, which is kind of how like Filoni works with Favreau. Now, not everything they do is like gold star material, but for the most part, they're cohesive and they're pretty solid structures, serviceable at worst. Super Ree says he created a world that other people are better at telling stories in, and that's dope. Yeah, I mean, that's a good assessment right there. Would you ever do an online debate with a rage bait grifter? I mean, I would, but at the same time, do I expect them to be in good faith? Probably not. I mean, I say I would because I have nothing to fear and I have the facts on my side. But if they're just not gonna listen, then why? Why bother? And that's why George was great, because he invested so much technology, or had his teams, and they elevated his art. Yeah, like Lucasfilm in general, and along with ILM and everything, they're just really good at doing the things that they do, right? And so I think I think for the most part, the timetables for doing a TV show has challenged them greatly. And I think taking the time to do their next movie is essentially what they need. Favorite Star Wars book author? Probably Claudia Gray. Trivia. Thrawn and Anakin discover a factory manufacturing what? Cortosis. Or prototype armor for stormtroopers to have cortosis, but I think they were prototype stormtrooper armor. Just prototype armor with cortosis. No point other than engagement, and that's why you are here. It's about talking Star Wars, not convincing people to like it. Exactly. Like, I feel like if I were to debate one of them, and I would try to make a point, let's say about, I'll just try to make any point, and all they would say in response is, so just because we don't like it, we're bigots, and like that's when kind of when it snowballs into just intellectually dishonest. Like I remember a YouTube space back in the day when despite liking or disliking a project, people still talked about Star Wars and what was happening. Like if we go back to the time when the prequels was largely ridiculed, those channels were still talking about what happened in the movies. So like when The Phantom Menace came out, yeah, sure, there were critics and they were like, this movie sucks, but for the most part, everybody was talking about what happened in the movie and talking about, you know, speculation and theory and how episode 2, what would happen in episode 2. Nobody does that anymore. For a select few, like, you know, within this community, everybody talks about what happens in the shows. If you go to the Carpet Nugget Kingdom, nobody's talking about the show. They're always talking about the cast being diverse and the agenda being woke, which has nothing to do with what happened in the show. I don't know if you follow basketball, but they just gave Dwayne Wade a statue and they made him look like Paul Mooney having a really bad day. Dang. Does LeBron have a statue? Your knowledge of Star Wars is insane. I appreciate that, money made. It's just over years and years of taking notes and updating my lore Bible. I don't have much knowledge in stuff that I cannot recall. So, I mean, I normally have to look in my lore Bible for anything that I need to kind of reference. Would you mind taking a sec to Steelman a common Star Wars grifter argument? Sure. Prequels added so much lore to the mix. I feel that the sequels outside of TLJ had much less lore. JJ removed a lot of it. That's weird. That's a weird statement, VGC. I mean, we got the Dyad. We had a lot of lore, actually. We got the Dyad in the Force. We got the doctrine of the Dyad, which was Sith lore that informed the Rule of Two. We got lore on hyperspace.
That's going to be an OnlyFans
become
charge,
a member
sir.
of the Dyad Squadron.
Hey, shout out to 4Cal. Shout out to all of the Ryan Johnsons in the chat. Thanks for being a member, Cal. Always appreciate it. I don't know, there's a lot of lore in the sequel trilogy that we didn't have. I'm interested in waiting for this grifter argument, this common grifter argument. I mean, the movies itself, most of the good stuff from Tross came after the fact. Oh, the Sidious stuff was interesting. I think from a base level, a lot of it came from the movie. I mean, we got details after the fact, but the Dyad and the Force, Sidious's Strandcast and experiments on Snoke, and there was a lot of declarations of lore, I will say, with the visual dictionaries adding the finer details. But even then, the visual dictionaries came out day and date. I know I'm late, but just finished The Bad Batch. Absolutely loved it. Oh, I'm glad you loved it. It's a great one. I hear a Choco that sounds like he's on the wrong mic, but we'll figure it out. Let's see. I appreciate the sequels adding lore on cults and religions around the Force. Was the Resistance in the sequels a militia? Depends on what the definition of a militia is.
Yeah, pretty much. Because remember, they didn't have any true involvement with the New Republic.
No, they didn't. I mean, wouldn't the name Resistance be kind of just apt already? Resistance fighters?
Yeah. It'd be like if like a group of militias coming together.
It's certainly asymmetric, like it always has been for them. What would you recommend to watch next after The Bad Batch? Depends on what you haven't seen.
I mean, if you haven't seen Rebels, if you enjoyed The Bad Batch, you'll enjoy Rebels.
Yeah.
Like if you enjoy the depth of the characters and going on their journey with them, that's going to be your next closest thing.
Rebel Alliance was organized from several planets. Resistance was small scale in terms of scope. I think the biggest difference between the two is that the Resistance was unsanctioned by anyone, really. It really was a grassroots movement. Chaka's voice always reminds me of a tribe called Quest. Really?
Hey!
I don't hear that guy speak enough.
That's cool.
Watch The Good Batch.
I was always
Watch
a big
The Good
Q-Tip
Place.
fan. Yeah, that's true.
Rebels it is. Right on. All right.
Just know that at the very start, it does scale young, and it gets more intense as it goes on.
That's truly profound, Chaco. Almost as if you were Lisangal Gaib.
So, using the link I used, I don't see anything. So it just cut out, and then I heard the sounds.
Oh, wait. You don't even see what I'm sharing with you? Oh, it probably needs to be the director. Huh. 1 second.
Oh, and now I see you.
You see that?
There it is. Yes.
Rebels ages up so much faster than Clone Wars because Rebels. What makes Rebels work is that it's a contained story with main characters, right? I mean, the Clone Wars was largely an anthology with 3 main characters that kind of shifted back and forth, and then sometimes you would follow ancillary characters.
The tough thing about the Clone Wars too is that the characters have an endpoint that we already know. So, like, Obi-Wan has to end up Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. You know what I mean? So he can only have so much growth.
I also feel like this thing hates your virtual camera. Or whatever you're using.
I'm not using anything.
It's just Camlink.
Yeah.
It's a slick background that you have then.
And my Camlink, you know, it runs fine. I don't know. I do have my internal replacement. I just haven't replaced it yet, but because it's bent, and so like I know it'll be going on its way out, and I'd rather not use USB if I can. But
I mean, it does have certain sprints where it shows you smooth, and then it needs to catch up for some reason.
Yeah, but I just mean, you know, stuff I use, or I don't know. I don't have this issue anywhere else.
Mike, you asked if I wouldn't mind taking a sec to steal man a common grifter argument, and I'm waiting for it. I'm like stoked. I'm ready. Do you know why Ray would want to rebuild
You finished
the Jedi
Glass
Order?
Abyss? Yes, I have.
Do you know why Ray would want to rebuild the Jedi Order? Galaxy was fine without it. I mean, for the same reason she...
That you're literally describing the question I want answered. That I think would be super compelling for a film. I think that's what Luke's conclusion was at the end of, or not at the end of, but at the beginning of The Last Jedi, was that the galaxy would be better off. But at the end of the day, at the end of that movie, when they called for help in their fight against fascism, no one came, no one heard, right? There was no spark, there was no inspiration. And so he provided that legend that could galvanize everyone in order to make them. He inspired fear in the bad guys and inspired faith in the good people. We saw the little kids be inspired and want to stand up and join that fight. And I think ultimately that's what the Jedi's role needs to be, is that they are the beacon, the example for what is good.
Yep.
I know this is not the greatest film, but I've said it before, but I still think that the Jedi's role should be like an X-Men Last Stand. You remember that movie? The X-Men lined up. They stood as a wall separating two sides, and they're like, we fight to hold this line. Either side, I think that's what their role should be more of.
I don't really have a set kind of way the Jedi should be. I just know that they shouldn't take their marching orders from any government, for sure.
Yeah. And it's hard because we know all of it was Palpatine, right? And had the galaxy done a civil war, they would have mediated peace, or should have. But peace talks were impossible because Palpatine / Dooku would just kill anyone who was trying to do so.
Let's see if that did anything. I don't know, man. Is Chaco talking with the Force because his mouth ain't moving? It's for some reason how just he reacts, or his system reacts to this platform now for some reason that we've been using for going on 6 years.
But it's new. This isn't. Yeah, we've been using this for a long ass time. Hasn't happened before, but it doesn't happen anywhere else. And there's nothing. I don't know. There's nothing like it could or should be causing it.
Now you're using a cam link, right? So the signal goes through Elgato Capture, right? Do you think it's a resolution frame rate problem that you have? And it wouldn't show on your live feed, obviously. Are you outputting a certain way that isn't being received well, or is it just a connection thing due to updates? Unsure. I haven't really changed anything about how we do this for a long time. We've been using this platform for a couple of years, and I've been using this implementation for a couple of years. And sometimes it comes in smooth, and I don't know why it just stutters.
When
was the last update to the software? It's always updating. It's web-based. Are y'all Dragon Age fans? Jago's a huge one. I played Origins, and I want to play Veilguard.
I've been hearing some real good things about Veilguard. I'm excited.
You hear nothing but great things. What about if it's?
I mean, I've heard negative things. I've heard negative things as well, but the good things I've heard are things that are specifically tuned to like my enjoyment.
Yeah. I'm just excited for another game I don't know if it's just me, but I love games with romance options. It's a huge motivator for me to be a hero. Because I
also
grew up... I think there's some
Go ahead,
lag.
finish.
I think there's some lag between you and me, and I think it's wholly connection based rather than CPU based. Say potato.
Potato.
I don't know if that's a 3-second lag or you didn't respond until 3 seconds later.
No, that would have to be 3 seconds of lag. I responded the second I heard you say potato.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say basically,
A few moments later.
I grew up with a lot of silent hero archetypes. Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, all of the Square games. And it always irked me that you could be the hero, but nobody is ever interested in you. Right? But we have that trope constantly in anime where like the tuxedo mask or the hero figure always kind of brings about some form of admiration. But then like in the Final Fantasy series, everyone's just like, you're a great guy. Thanks for saving us. That's it. So like Mass Effect and all of the games that have romance options was something new to me that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so the archery looks really good in the game. That's what I wanted to make sure you heard, at least.
Yeah. I did see the gameplay of the archery and it looks fun. I hear Choco great, but he's freezing up. Yeah. Jedi game with romance options, but you don't doom the galaxy. I mean, I think that largely works lore-wise too. It just depends on how you treat your romance. Basically, if I were to sum it up, you just can't be like Anakin.
I mean, like a Jedi game with romance options, it's interesting because once again, I think we're hellbent on viewing the Jedi as a religion, instead of an occupation. If the person's like, I'm a Jedi, my job is to put the galaxy before my needs and everything forever. It's hard to be super as committed in that situation. I'm on team Jedi should have relationships, but you just leave the Jedi and go do you, like Obi-Wan said he was going to.
Yeah. The Martini says that's an archetype. The one who brings about change doesn't get to take part in it. Yeah, what I'm saying is I don't enjoy those archetypes. Like, for example, The Witcher. Like, The Witcher doesn't seem like a very romantic person, but it plays into like exploring his intrinsic qualities where he is a monster hunter, but he's also dealing with these other like issues with intimacy and issues as it pertains to how he confronts his feelings and stuff. And so it's more interesting. I feel like a hero's character when dealing with that stuff is a lot more interesting. Although in Chaco's case, he always just flirts. Press the flirt button, so I don't know how that works out in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Jedi out there who's got Riz, including Mace Windu, as we find out in the Glass Abyss.
How excited are you?
Which Jedi was it? Say Tin, who's spitting game all throughout
Living Force?
The Living Force.
Was it CC?
I feel like it was. At least that's what I was picturing. And he's, spitting game at this criminal chick. If there's a game where you just played as Elzar Mann, I think that would work.
Yeah. So are you on this with Edge now too? Still?
Right now, this is Edge. Yes.
How did it work perfectly that one time, and then Edge was like, "Nah, bro, we gotta keep it consistent over here." That's so strange. It's just in classic storytelling, the trailblazer goes on blazing trails. Yeah, but Alexander the Great betted a few people, right? Like, even if you're not interested in the romance portion of it, just like just a good example of that is The Witcher, right? Sometimes people are big fans of yours, so you just like, all right, we'll have fun this one night, and then I'll go off and slay some more monsters later. It lets you live in the world rather than be a passive participant that's making changes.
Yeah, and the Martini, what's your Star Wars lore question?
Damn, I don't know where Mike went, but I'm still waiting for that common grifter argument that we could steel man. I mean, to be fair, we steel man all of their arguments because they have no ground. It's easy to steel man their arguments.
What's a trope I want to see in Star Wars? The old grizzled hero who like has had his adventure and lives at the top of a hill somewhere, but like the town that he lives adjacent to gets threatened. It's a kind of like, I mean, we've seen it. It's actually Obi-Wan's thing in the Legends Obi-Wan book. But I think that would be cool. You have like a town that's being threatened sometime during the Empire's reign, and someone who's like a Jedi who's been in hiding can't take the gangsters in this town, and then has to like come down and be like, one more time. Porter Angle type, yeah. If we do a Porter Angle type character for that, I'd be into that. All right. I think I'm actually gonna hop out and then try to, and it's not gonna do anything, but install this thing and then
install what?
Just see what the difference is.
One second before you hop out. I want to see if this treats you any better than this browser.
Let's see. So I watched episode 2 after a long while. In the beginning, Barriss is in Palp's office, so she's Anakin's age. Yeah. So Barriss is like, Barriss is quite a bit older than Ahsoka. That's always been the case. They did age her down. I think originally she was supposed to be like 21 or something like that. And then they aged her down, but originally she was older than Anakin. But also remember that she was already a knight at that point in time. She just had already been around. She was not, I think we think of Jedi as combat people primarily because those are the stories that are most entertaining that we tell, but that wasn't her role. So I think that might be what it is. She was like She was a healer. Is what she was. That's all she wanted to do, and never wanted to take part in the war.
Clone Wars made it seem like she was Ahsoka's age. So in those episodes, she's like 22, I believe.
Yeah. All right. I may be back.
And then he left. We'll see what happens if he switches to his internal capture card. Dang, that makes her pinning it on Ahsoka a lot worse. I think it makes her pinning it on Ahsoka a lot more plausible. Because she's older, because she is more susceptible to propaganda that would make you act in rash ways, right? Because according to lore and according to real life, really, like, the younger you are, the more innocent and the more balanced you are, is because you don't really have prejudiced thoughts. And so, you know, Barriss had gone through a lot. And the rhetoric that she was kind of consuming, it makes sense that it would have an effect on her. And it would kind of clash with her worldviews. I gotta stop dropping my stuff. Like old Monday. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things about the older Jedi that whether it's complacency, hubris, or, you know, their experiences that informs it. Like old Mundi, I don't think Barriss has a canon birthday. She doesn't. But just like Vernestra Rose, she's a Mary Ellen, right? And so they can live to be more than 100, right? So even if she looks even though she looks like around what Ahsoka's age is, she's probably a lot older. One character type that'd be interesting to see among Jedi is a trickster type, like Loki. I think Yariel Poof is kind of like a trickster type. Yariel Poof is the guy in the Jedi Council with the long neck. Small head. I want to see if I can... I mean, it's not going to autofocus because I have it on manual, but he was this guy in the Jedi Council chambers. Kaminoan? No, he's the hell is he? He's not a Kaminoan though. I should know his species by heart. Quirmian. Why? Why didn't I know that? I just spoke with Mark Thompson about him too. He loves to pull pranks because he gets bored, as we learned in the Living Force. Yeah, I mean that's why he's that's why I attribute him to like the low-key trickster type. Hey, how's it going, Amber? Just a chill Tuesday night. What are you guys doing aside from hanging out with me? Good can't stay, but always have to stop and send love when I see you. I appreciate that, Amber. Have fun with whatever you're going to do or are doing. Love has been received and has been given back. Right. Eating a lemon blueberry cake? You know, for the past couple of weeks I've been craving a tres leches cake. And I might finally get it. And I realized earlier in this stream I was talking about how I don't have a sweet tooth and I don't crave for candy like I used to. That's why I don't trick or treat. But a tres leches cake or a flan, leche flan. That's balance in the Force, baby. Do you think I should get it? We'll see. It's not quite the same, but they make tres leches cinnamon toast crunch now, and it's amazing. Oh. If only I could eat cinnamon toast crunch without completely demolishing my health, I would. Though I would love a tres leches cake flavored with cinnamon toast crunch, which kind of like, it's not healthier either, but I would rather eat a cake than eat the cereal. Just give me a tres leches cake with cinnamon and sugar sprinkled on top instead of giving me like the processed cereal, and that'll hold me over for sure. All right. Let's keep it up with the trivia questions. I think it's fun. It's fun to test my recall. I know a lot of people think that I know everything about Star Wars, but it's just the case that I have all of the notes about Star Wars. I think I've shown you guys all of like a preview of my lore Bible too. It's just that everything that I've watched, everything that I've read, I've taken notes on, and I've kept a detailed record of the chronology of Star Wars. So I'm able to look that stuff up. Though I am still, I don't know if you guys can see it. Right there. I am still a trivia champion. And I ain't never giving up this belt. This belt is staying with me. Chaco will never win it. mine. Anybody play GTA? What species is Maskanata? I don't think they revealed it. They might have. She's the only one of her species, so I feel like that was just lost on me. What does Kix choose to wear after being awoken post Order 66? What does he choose to wear? A poncho? Can you elaborate on the new Mace book and the info on his skill style? Well, what would you like me to elaborate on? In particular. Hello, KG. How are you? In a ghostly voice? Hello, KG. Hello there. Did that sound? Hello there. Hello there. I look like an idiot. All blue with highlights of white. So you're saying he's trying to emulate Rex? Or Jesse? Yeah, they never said it in an unknown force sensitive alien. Phase 1 clone armor. There was a modification he supposedly made. Oh. Did you read The Crimson Corsair, Martini? It's been a long time since I read it. That's also a trivia question. Which clone is known to have survived all the way up to the sequel trilogy? Kicks. Remember that, because that'll be in a future volume of Dyad Ultimate Trivia Quiz. I remixed that really well. This is like a spooky background music, but it also sounds like something that Snoop Dogg would produce. Dang, he had to be old? No, he was cryo frozen. And he stayed cryo frozen all throughout the reign of the Empire. And all of the stuff we're watching now with Mando and Ahsoka. And he was brought out of cryo sleep towards the sequel trilogy. So it remains possible for Kix to appear in the Rey movie. Let me hope. Yeah, he's not that old. He'd probably be the age of Rex during the Battle of Endor or Rebels. By the time of Rey's movie, which is about 15 years after Rise of Skywalker. So he could show up. He didn't age in cryosleep, so he has all those years saved up. Have a wonderful night, and thanks for the great discussions as always. Appreciate you hanging out, Eric. Once again, a Skywalker general and a clone soldier. That would be cool if Kix became Rey's Rex. That would be dope. I'm not gonna lie. And I didn't think of that until you just said it, so. That's a great drop. It's a great mic drop. In fact, that was so profound. Lisan Agayib. Man, I feel like I've been bamboozled. I've been waiting for this common grifter argument to Steelman for like the past hour, and I haven't gotten it. And I feel like it's been taken from me. Quick, someone give me a common grifter argument for me to Steelman. Man, my spook dog comment not gonna show up. Shame. I didn't see it. Apologies. How about, if I were racist, why do we like Lando? I think you like Lando because they didn't give him much screen time, and he was an ancillary character and not the main character. And that's where you like your black people. That's where you like your people of color. If you weren't racist, why don't you like more people than Lando? It's almost as if there's a quota being filled. OT purists. It really is. It really is easy to steel man anybody's whataboutism. You know, it's like, I don't hate women. I like Ahsoka. So, again, you just don't like your women in leading roles. My answer is because that came out 30 years ago and there's nothing you can do about it now. True. You could amend that with, because that came out 30 years ago and your current agenda is to hate something now. And so you have to use it as a token. It's essentially, I have a black friend. What is the final words of the Grand Inquisitor before his death? There are worse things than death. Hey, Master James Kenobi! In sync. In sync. Although I don't know why that made everything black. Oh. Well, then that shouldn't be the case. Apparently, that's the shortcut for that soundboard item is the same as turn off camera. There are some things far more frightening than death. Ah, okay. Okay, it's time for Lore Master trivia for you guys. Let's see. And I'm not going to look up anything. This is off the top of my head. What is the species of the creature that Obi-Wan rides in Revenge of the Sith, named Bogan? I mean Boga, sorry. Answer this correctly and you get a prize. I don't know what prize. I suppose I have to change that hotkey now. let's see if it'll happen without my camera disabling. There we go. Does it start with a K? No. It starts with a V. Starts with a V. KG is close. KG got it. It is a fractal. Or this. All right. Another one. What species in which Obi-Wan meets in Revenge of the Sith, who's also the Grand Inquisitor, lives on Utapau? Master James Kenobi. Got a powin. Do you like the sequel trilogy? Like I said earlier, it's tough to like a whole trilogy as a monolith. I like The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens middling, The Rise of Skywalker low on my list. Just like with the other trilogies, none of them really, as a whole, garner any universal merit with me. My top three are the best three in each trilogy, though, which is The Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and Revenge of the Sith. But that's also just my opinion. Bro, I didn't know it. I should have just wrote it. You should have. Like, there's no limit to your guesses. Okay, but if you took ROTS, ESB, and ROTJ and put them together, they can be a goated trilogy. Not really. I don't put ROTJ up very high up there either. I mean, it's in my top 5, but it's not really high up there. But if it's your GOAT trilogy, then respect. I'm just trying to take one film from each era. But you didn't. You took 2 films from original trilogy. I just rewatched Ross and I love it so much. What don't you like about it? The Rise of Skywalker, I like the story of it, but it was way too fast. Pacing issues. And the return of Palpatine was executed horribly, and in that I mean putting his message in Fortnite rather than setting it up in the movie. I think the whole beginning of The Rise of Skywalker kind of flew by, where we could have we could have used another 5 or 6 minutes of Kylo Ren talking to the Eye of Webbish Bog and finding out about the Wayfinder, so that it didn't become a MacGuffin just from Ochi of Bestoon. I feel like the Wayfinder should have been propped up more through active participation in the story rather than just watching Kylo Ren loot it from Mustafar. And if you read I rank the Rise of Skywalker novelization a lot higher than the Rise of Skywalker movie, if that says anything. If the whole beginning played out like the novelization, I think a lot of the movie could have been saved. But they just made a lot of editing and cutting decisions that I don't agree with. I mean, and this is all taking into consideration the fact that they had to work with old footage of Carrie because of her untimely demise, or because of her passing. Those scenes also felt kind of disjointed, but that's a small complaint I have. In general, the execution of the Final Order and Palpatine's return, in combination with the pacing issues. But, you know, if I had to say something good about the Rise of Skywalker, I'd say it had a fun and interesting adventure. I don't think they used Finn to his full potential. I hate that Rey and Kylo did nothing but fight the whole time, kiss, then Ben dies and everyone forgets about him. That's another thing. I feel like Ben deserved more than just ow. He deserved some lines as Ben. I just feel like because it was the last of the saga, they could have made it 3 hours. They could have paced it a lot better, given life to a lot more important scenes, and kind of lived with the conclusion story a bit longer. I honestly dislike the Final Order fleet the most. Seems so unnecessary to be tens of thousands of Star Destroyers but planet killers. I mean, it happened in Dark Empire. That's no excuse, but it's just that's where they were working from by bringing Palpatine back. Make the Knights of Ren an actual threat. Yeah. Oh, good. Explain your Luke Skywalker saber in the Wampa Cave MacGuffin stance. Explain it how? And what is my stance? VGC, you know what? I agree that they should have been more of a threat. And they could have fixed that rather easily by making their fight with Kylo Ren more consequential. But I personally had no... I suppose it's the fault of the movie, but I had no investment in the Knights of Ren. I think they may have thought they could get away with just having cool looking characters, but Knights of Ren could have been so cool. Well, I mean, that's a good callback because, yeah, Boba Fett was kind of throwaway in the original trilogy. How you made it comparable to Rey and the Death Star knife thing. It's comparable to Rey and the Death Star knife because they're both MacGuffins. They're there. That situation is made so that Luke has a near-death experience, which allows him to see Obi-Wan, which then makes Obi-Wan appear as a ghost for the first time in the movies and tell him that he needs to go to Dagobah. It's also the first time that we've seen someone pull a lightsaber with the Force. You know, none of this stuff is set up. It's just there to propel the plot forward and get Luke to Dagobah. But what I hate most is how we've got nothing since. No books, comics, shows, and now there's stuff happening with the Rey movie. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Decrepit, you can laugh all you want, but I would love to hear your discourse on it and how you disagree with it, you know. I'm not opposed to having discourse. Something tells me that's not going to happen, though. Not to mention the trooper who goes, "The Knights of Ren." Cool. Yeah. That was kind of a silly line. I like the Final Order fleet. Looking at it from a warfare standpoint, it makes sense. I would have loved to have seen more of it, but that's my biggest complaint of Tross, is it should have been longer. Yeah, I mean, I largely agree. I feel like The Rise of Skywalker could have been maybe a half hour longer, just to kind of pace things out more. It is the end of the saga, so I mean, kind of run with it, double down on it. Also, get rid of the Lord of the Rings, bro, and make Rose relevant again. Yeah, I don't know. In some cases, you can make an argument that The Rise of Skywalker was a large capitulation to the fans' backlash. They tried to course correct, and they did so horribly. I thought the trooper said ghouls. Hey, you know, like there's an expression called wizard. So ghoul could be ghoul. That could be a new expression. Hey, who's that? Knights of Ren. Ghoul. Oh no, I might try to make that happen now. What did I say about Decrepit and the discourse? Yeah. They're just gonna laugh at my my parallel between Luke's lightsaber getting him to Dagobah moment versus Rey's Sith dagger getting her to the Wayfinder moment. It's the wildest thing he's ever heard. Because that's all he's ever heard. Outside of "it's too woke," I imagine. Gruel. I am gruel. They tried to please everyone and ended up pleasing almost no one. That's usually how it goes, yeah. They love to drop comments and then never actually talk about it. Which is sad because I want to engage. It's like, explain yourself. So I explain myself. So what are you gonna what is your, you know, what's your rebuttal? Like the biggest cop out ever is haha, okay, and then leave. Like you didn't do anything. There's more of us is still one of my favorite moments in that movie. It's high on my list. I think that's the highest high of The Rise of Skywalker. All of those ships, and it was just a whole ragtag group of ships from all around the galaxy that had no business being organized. And it was just a massive show of resistance against a fleet that was all one ship. The imagery of like a wall of ships that are all shapes and sizes and models and from different people and planets versus a fleet of just star destroyers is like the ultimate. It's the ultimate argument against conformity. You know, there are more of us. You damn straight. That and the sound of all of the Sith lightning was pretty epic too. Yeah, I mean, if you were in a theater that had extra juicy woofs in it. That's no Navy, sir. It's just people. But that's the whole point, right? It's like there's so much more people out there that you would be a fool to try to conquer the world. Because you can't. There's like, just to kind of contextualize it in a way that is understandable. There's how many billion people on Earth? Nobody has an army that's close to that number. Like if you did a battle simulation in one of those games that they do those simulations on, you would put like 5 or 6 billion people on the battlefield and take like the largest army of like 250,000. They're done. They're donezo. Any Star Wars horror book recommendations? Finished Red Harvest, about to start Death Trooper. Honestly, the closest thing to horror that I could think of that's not specifically like a horror themed release is Fallen Star or Into the Dark. And I think that's the message of that scene too. It's like, together we're unstoppable, divided we are divided we lose, united, whatever that idiom is, right? A powerful military can go around conquering country after country after country, but if it ever were the case that the whole world was just united, they'd be snuffed out. Like the whole world working together. United we stand, divided we fall. Is that it? Both Phase 1 books, correct? Yeah. All right, here's another lore question. Let's go into the sequel trilogy now. What was the festival they were celebrating in Pisana when Rey, Finn, and Poe landed? I mean, I gave half of the answer away. This place rocks. It happened only every 40 years. Okay. But what was it? Aki? Aki is the name of the people. I'll give you points for that. You get a drink. Congratulations, Blue Eagle Gamer. You win an empty bottle of whiskey. Actually, there's a little some stuff in it. Aki Festivus. Appreciate the effort. Let's see. You guys pick an era. How about that? You guys pick an era, and then I can give you guys a trivia question off of that. So I had to shake this, and I'm wondering if this is going to blow up. We have a Choco. We have a Choco.
Yeah.
Choco, we have a Choco. Choco? Is that you? Choco, we have a Choco? We have a Choco
Hello.
in full HD, 60 frames per second. Looks like it was your cam link.
So what I did seems to have fixed the problem. I honestly don't believe it's a cam link, although what I'm using works better for sure. But
What are you using? Are you still using an Elgato capture, or did you find
I am.
internal? Okay.
But no. The reason I say that is because if it were the cam link, then my preview would have been janky, right? Like I would see it on my end. It wouldn't happen over the network. But we're working, so that's all that matters. It's just very odd. But man, this looks real good.
Yeah. You look great on the feeds as well. I think people can see that you are one sparkling dapper person at the moment.
Speaking of sparkling dapper people, how's Connor doing? I haven't heard from Connor in a hot minute. How's he?
I think
I know he was taking a break, but
he did, but I imagine he got upset that we haven't tested British snacks yet. I'm just kidding. We keep saying that we do, but I just have to. So here's okay, Choco. We have to put this in the books, okay, for episode 200. You ready? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to an English grocer or British grocer and get some British snacks, and we'll test some snacks. We'll find some time. I'll find some time to deliver like your copy of the snacks to you. So on episode 200, we'll taste test some British snacks, and then we will have to do the spicy noodle challenge.
I mean, I'm sure I have a British grocer near me. I think I more so need the list.
Okay.
But damn, I'm just looking at my preview and I'm like,
It's on point. I mean, I see the call preview moving smoothly, and then the feed on the browser sources in tip-top sync shape.
Yeah, no, I because of the issues before, I have my actual camera view up just so I can like be like, I'm not crazy. It's working over here. This is just looks a lot better over here than it did before.
So if you're confident it wasn't the cam link, what do you think that you did that fixed the issue? You said you're confident that I fixed the issue, but that it's not your cam link.
Ooh, no, I didn't say I was confident I fixed the issue, but I said I was confident that that wasn't the issue because it displays smoothly on my end, meaning that shouldn't be what's being transmitted, right? That's only it coming into my computer. So what I see locally should be the same. You know what I mean? Like, if it were the cam link, then that issue would show up on anything internal. Or it could be a number of things, but like bottleneck thresholds. I don't know.
I still think if your cam link is showing smooth in a direct feed, it would not show smooth in a video feed that's over the internet.
Right, but so why would it be the cam link in that scenario? Maybe it is, but the logic just isn't logicking for me.
The bit rate versus USB transfer speeds.
Could be.
Because right now I'm transmitting at 16 megabits. My video is 16 megabits a second on Video Ninja.
You know what?
How's it going, Batosai?
So on Video Ninja, mine was like 160 kilobytes per second.
What is it now?
8 megabytes.
The hell changed? The only thing
I don't know. I remember looking at that and like, that seems pretty low.
Is that a green screen or your actual background?
Me? That's my background.
Is it?
I just have a purple lamp. Woo!
Is it a 3D background or is it just a pattern background? Are those things that you can brush your hand along and feel the trapezoids and the polygons?
Oh yeah. They're just it's like plastic. They're printed, and I just put them up in a pattern.
So you can theoretically die from them if someone kicks you really hard and you your head slams.
They're not that tough. They're not that tough, and they do nothing for sound. Although I imagine they don't bounce sound straight, so I suppose that might help. But
yeah,
but there's no.
Are they rigid or are they soft?
Rigid.
So it's not a sound dampener rather than a reflector that.
Yeah. I had to go this route because the old one, my cat destroyed so many tiles. So like there's nothing he enjoyed more than just like digging his claws into it, and so I know he would be trying to climb up the whole time.
I think the solution to that is having dedicated climbing mechanisms for them, right? Around the stuff you don't want them to climb on.
That's something else I thought about. Because I also got a blackout curtain for the window that's to the left of me, but the cat still wants to sit on that windowsill to look out, so I'm gonna make a little thing so he can climb up and claw his way up there and stuff.
Maybe if a supermarket near has a world foods section. The thing about supermarkets is that their world foods sections typically only have like the most popular things. Like you wouldn't have like something that you can get at like at a local like bodega in London, for example.
Also, a lot of times it's still pretty Americanized stuff. Like it's the American idea of what they have. You know what I mean? Like I live in San Diego, and I can go to the Mexican section of the grocery store, and that's not what's sold. I live like 20 minutes from the border, and it's not what's being sold over there. So like,
same thing with Filipino food. Like you'll get like very, very franchised heavy like brands.
Yeah.
But if you go to like Seafood City or if you go to like Eagle Rock, you'll find all of like the Like the very, very Filipino brands that you would see if you were in the Philippines. I use those same wall tiles for building out a bike shop. Nice.
Yeah, see, Chase knows.
Are they vinyl? Are they just like adhesive?
No, they're not adhesive. I have this weird tape that I bought just to put them up. And I'm severely messed up on it, but the tape I use is like vinyl.
So the only part that truly matters is the part that's not messed up. Because I can tell you right now, outside of this frame right here, that's not painted.
Oh yeah. I mean, actually, in my preview window, you can't see it in your window here, but in my preview window, in the bottom corner right there, you can see a spot of my wall. And the reason it looks like it's on an angle is because I took a black like binder and leaned it against the wall right there. I don't know, it's black. You won't notice it. Y'all can't see it in there though.
What did he say?
Yeah. I mean, when I got the painting materials and I wanted to paint the walls dark blue, I just looked at all of the stuff that was against the wall. I'm like, I'm not moving that. So I just moved the shelves that were there, this shelf, that shelf, and painted that section that my camera pointed to.
Yeah.
But you could probably see the whiteness past it. I have a pattern like that for my kitchen island that I need to put up. They came in foam tiles. Oh, that would be nice.
Although I do actually just like the look of it, so I'll probably get a second order of them. Because right now it's 4 high. It's not even. One side is 5 high, the other side is 4 high, and then there's like pieces missing. And I was like, okay, well, if it's framed this way, then it works. But I also want to stand. But I think it actually kind of looks nice, so I want them to go to the ceiling. So,
how are any of them sky high?
What are you using for your soundboard?
OBS soundboard. With the Stream Deck. I just have a whole bunch of Control Shift Alt Tab hotkeys. They're just the most complicated hotkeys set, so it doesn't run amiss.
You say that, but like, if I still, I mean, I love my keyboard too much for that now, but I do sometimes miss my MMO keyboard because it had
G keys.
I had 2 extra rows of keys to the left, and then underneath my space bar was like 3 keys and then 1 key. And just between all of those, because you can also have, modifier keys and stuff like that. But between those, I'd be able to do just about anything,
I have a button for Suki.
What the dog doing?
I have a sound for Cal.
God, I love that.
And I have a sound that will, if anybody's playing GTA while they're watching our stream. Having enough inputs for every ability in Sator's Wild. Yeah, I still use my MMO mouse. I don't know. Oh, it's in my... right here.
Hold up. Which mouse is that?
This is the Corsair Scimitar.
Okay. For a second, I thought we had the same one, but yes, I also will only use an MMO mouse because
this
why
one.
wouldn't you? I don't. Why wouldn't? What else is there?
The back and forth buttons.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many times where like
I do miss that my old mouse had a trigger button here that I could set for something else, but it's gone.
I mean, I have that. Do I have your old mouse? Maybe I don't know.
Is it a UTech Smart Venus?
Honestly, this was a cheap one that is just. Actually, yeah. I was like, I don't recognize this logo at all because it looks like a S thing, and so I turned it over and it says UTech Smart Venus MMO Gaming Mouse. Yeah.
Yep. I love that button.
Having enough inputs for every ability in SWTOR is wild. You know what's funny? Where I actually got this controller because I was hoping I could do that and play SWTOR with a controller.
I mean, it does have controller support.
Yeah. So it does have controller support. And then I got this one, so I have extra buttons down here on the bottom. And then up top, there's extra sets of buttons right here.
Is that a Nikon?
That's actually all. But no, this is a
Raiju?
This is a Razer Kraken, I want to say.
Oh, that's the Xbox version of the Raiju.
Oh, yeah, that's what it would be.
Nice.
But I got that so I could hold one down as a modifier key and be like, yeah, these are all these are all those. And then I got it, and then I stopped playing SWTOR.
Show your loverless.
What?
Didn't you get a loverless for Street Fighter?
Yeah, I got the cheap one though.
Which is?
Which is this bad
cheap.
boy.
Wait, so those aren't Sanwa buttons, are they? They're just...
They do. I mean, they are switches. I don't know what type of switches they are, but yeah, it's nothing special. But I like this because it was little, it was low profile, and then you just and of course I can get a sticker to put over the top of it if I'd like. Just haven't.
These are Sanwas. Well, these are silenced, but it doesn't look like the buttons you have are Sanwas.
No. I wanted to make sure I enjoyed this type of input first.
How are you enjoying it?
Oh, love it. Love it.
What's strange to me is that Loverless makes sense up to the point of where the jump is, because when I maimed and emulated arcade games and it was fighting games, I always had W as my jump. So I never used the thumb.
And the thumb is, well, it's not the hardest part to get used to. Actually, down is the hardest part to get used to. But you just have to play stuff where you can commit it to muscle memory, and eventually it'll just work.
I was just used to using W as jump, and so I never associated the thumb with up. So, but with the thumb, it makes it easier to do full circles. So it's like ASD keyboard.
Just roll it, you know.
You could literally like face roll. Is that
and for me it worked because you know, I've never played a game that used W as jump, at least not in the past like 10 years. So for me, it's just like any other game where you're hitting spacebar to jump. It's just a down that is confusing when I look at it, because it is in the position where you would think it was up. Also, every now and then I set my fingers on the wrong keys.
Which is I actually, so Cal bought some red Sanwa caps as well as button plugs, which I call butt plugs. And he's going to disconnect the last two, so it's just 6 buttons, and put the caps on there. So because he always just like rolls his fingers onto like, what would the game default it to? All kicks and all punches. Which is not a button you need, because you can use 3 fingers already.
Yeah. And so for me, the my right pinky hits this or this, which is L1 and L2. And so this is the this is parry, this is DI. And I just don't ever use my right pinky for anything. I've never used my right pinky for anything.
I forced myself to use the natural inputs, which is both of the kicks and both of the, or both middles and both fierces, to do them. Because I've played Street Fighter for a long time, and like when focus attack was introduced with 4, I had to learn combos using it. So for me, I can't go into 6 and use another button to drive rush cancel. I either have to do the focus attack inputs that I'm used to with the double dash, or just double dash out.
Well, I mean, for using like OD, that's still how I use it. I didn't realize that's how that's how you do it. See, I'm coming from PlayStation when it comes to Street Fighter.
Oh, you didn't know that? That's how you did it?
Nope.
Yeah, so to parry, it's these two. To drive impact, it's these two. And to drive rush, you go into parry, and then you.
Yeah.
I don't use these buttons unless it's in the menu.
I might start doing that then.
It's honestly easier to. I mean, it's easier to kind of incorporate it into your combos when it's still, your hands are still on the attack buttons rather than.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like my pinky's just a weak, useless appendage. Like if it was my left pinky because of guitar and stuff like that, then yeah, I could do that. But that's why that's why Cal was beating me on DEI, is because I couldn't get my pinky to do it, you know.
For me, it's not about whether I can get to the button in time. For me, DI is still so kind of new in the gestalt of all of Street Fighter that I'm used to block strings. I'm used to jumping in, and if they block it, I'll keep the pressure up by putting in a block string, but in the middle of the block string, you would press drive rush, and I'm already doing a string of attacks. I'm just like, God damn it. So, yeah, you always... I have to make that adjustment. I almost don't want
Street
to.
Fighter, is this Street Fighter the best Street Fighter?
If I'm putting aside my nostalgia, yes.
I agree. I think the addition to the drive rush and the DI system creates a new system of checks and balances that doesn't favor a specific style of play, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It gives everything strengths and weaknesses, which is cool.
And also, Drive Impact is it's a very forgiving system to give to players that are new.
Mm-hmm. Also, having your charge meter just go up naturally helps prevent snowballing, and like, yeah, I know there's a lot that I think they really cooked with this one.
Oh yeah, the before. What is that noise? Was that part of the music? That was weird. I heard.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think meter management. Meter management. Go ahead.
This song sounds like spooky music from last epoch. It's oddly enough.
Oh no, that's coming from me. Why is it?
All right, so I looked online, and I mean, obviously this is recording. Like we're getting a vibe for this, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we do this? I just looked online and I found some random people's hot takes, and I'm curious how you feel about them.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me try to fix this because I'm getting a buzzing from my mic.
All right, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, but it's gonna come through on my end. What is that? Master James Kenobi hears it too? Yeah. When did it start?
I'm trying to think of some fun things that we can do as a podcast, and you know, I would like, I think we would need your guys's help. You know, anyone watching, but podcasts like to do a, you know, today I effed up. I would love to get those inside of the Star Wars universe. Can you imagine if we read those like, today I effed up by like, you know, forgetting my wife's birthday, and you're like, I'm a Mandalorian, but we're not really practicing right now. Anyways, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like we could do in universe ones, and it would be, they would be fun to read.
I agree. Sorry, I'm trying to find this thing.
I like. Feels like a good amount of our podcasts are fixing fixing things. Sounds fun, Darth Angel. Yeah. So if anyone has any or wants to, yeah, it's with them.
What is that? You don't hear that?
Yeah, I do hear that.
Is it gone, chat? It's gone for me. Oh.
Okay, maybe it's me.
What? Oh, did you mute?
Yeah, I muted.
Oh, yeah, it disappeared. I'm like sitting here wiggling cables. It's not as egregious, but sometimes shielded cables can actually create an insular effect if there's too many of them next to each other. That's why I like to space things out. But since it's not me, I'm gonna put on the music to
Well, I might have a fix already, so bear with me here.
I find it funny, Blue Gamer. Last couple of messages were back, gone, back, gone. Oh, I can hear you muffled, but that's probably a processor or.
Yeah, let's do. How does this sound?
That sounds
Any
fine.
better? But is that sound gone?
I'd say it's 95% gone. Try wiggling the XLR on your mic. Oh yeah. Something's happening with the noise when you wiggle it. So there's contamination in that cable along the chain somewhere. So follow the cable and start wiggling it towards the next thing in the signal chain. Oh. Oh. It's gone.
You're sounding like Astacross. Oh!
Oh my god! It's gone! Another one! Yeah, it's gone. Is it a plug to your sound interface or something?
Yeah, I mean, it was just something that's kind of being used to move the what's it called? Compressor, not Sonic Cloud Lifter, but the other one. To move it away
Fathead?
from the base. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That can be dealt with.
Alright, well, let's go on with your I have about 20 minutes before I have to end the stream, but we can do a couple of these hot takes if you want.
Yeah, I figured there'd be easy things that we can take and repurpose.
Sure.
All right. So I looked online, I found some hot takes, and we're going to discuss them. First one up is the Empire is a prescient example of an evil religious secular alliance. Ooh, so this has got some text behind it, but let's jump into it. The weirdest thing about the Empire in the original trilogy is that it is a quasi-fascist military force. Their soldiers are called stormtroopers. That is governed by an evil mystic who wields strange powers and belongs to a strange cult. On one hand, you've got leaders like Admiral Mahdi scoffing at Darth Vader's sorcerer ways and Vader's sad devotion to that ancient religion of the Force. And yet on the other hand, you've got the Emperor acting very much like an evil sorcerer who worships dark gods out of any old Conan or weird Tales story. It seems weird that defiantly secular imperialists work so closely with adherents of an esoteric faith, except that it makes perfect sense. Hitler was super into mysticism, after all, and we've seen over and over again how easy it is to create alliances between fundamentalist zealots and secular thugs. This uneasy alliance is one of the most realistic things about Star Wars.
If I'm being completely honest, I had trouble parsing that in its entirety. What do they ascribe the secular portion, and what do they ascribe the religious portion?
I mean, I think they're mostly talking about how interesting it is that you have, and this is kind of discussed in the books, especially like Lost Stars, where you have this military organization, right? And then you look at Vader, right, who comes out of nowhere and is now second in command. And he didn't go up the chain of military command, doesn't follow their rules or anything like that, because he's a magical mystic, right? They're saying that this is, and it's something that I agree, doesn't get talked about very much, but this weird mashup between this kind of religious zealots and the political aspect or military industrial aspect of it coming together doesn't get discussed much, but it is one of the most realistic things about Star Wars.
Yeah, if I were to compare it to like the monarchy and the Catholic Church, it's a bit easier for me to parse, I think, in relation to the fact that for the most part the monarchy is seeking expansion, seeking kind of prosperity in its kingdom, whereas the Catholic Church is kind of running off of its baser agendas and controls the monarchy in that way. And so in that regard, it's kind of like the way the Catholic Church controlled the Crusades was kind of like an empire with the Pope or with the Emperor. Even though he's called the Emperor, he's more in this regard he's more of a pope of the Catholic Church in this kind of analog.
Yeah, and it's cool to think about because like you said, it's a lot like the Crusades. It's one of the reasons I actually like Palpatine coming back, and I like the Final Order, because the Final Order is the end game all along. It wasn't taking control over the political sphere. His whole goal is to spread the control of the dark side of the Sith philosophy.
Yeah. Right.
That was never going to stop with just the Empire's, formation. So I think it's worded weird. It's not worded like a hot take. Yeah. But I do think it's interesting. It's a great point.
Yeah. It should be talked about more. I think for the most part, takes like these make you rethink a lot of how you frame the story and how you contextualize the people within the story.
Yeah. All right. I'll take number 2. I'm just going to read the title, then we'll discuss, and then we can get into it. it should be easy to go back and forth between the dark and light sides.
No. Not at all.
I completely agree. I already disagree with this premise, but I'll read it. It says, especially considering the end of the Darth Vader story, he has one moment of remorse at the end of Return of the Jedi. The slate is apparently wiped clean. He murdered countless people, including small children, but he chooses not to murder his son, so he's all good. I'm reminded of the line from the 1967 version of Bedazzled, where the devil laments that Mussolini repented for 1 second in his final moments and his soul was saved, undoing decades of hard work. So considering Vader's redemption, why exactly can't Force-sensitive people go back and forth between the light side and the dark side on a regular basis?
Wow. I mean, that's loaded in a way that kind of conflates what happened in the story, right? Because Vader doesn't immediately, his deeds are not forgotten very easily. Leia still holds on to them. The world, the galaxy entire still holds on to all of the deeds that happened. And it's only really us, the audience, and Luke that sees this moment of what he calls, or what they call, remorse, and kind of paints a broad stroke over it, saying he's all good now. I don't think anybody thinks that Vader is just all good. I just think that, you know, the notion that he has returned to the light is a rather simple or minimalist approach as to what actually happened. But because the Force is the way it is, it has to be that simple, right? Even though he has returned to the light, and he has chosen to return to the light, and has embraced selflessness, that doesn't mean that he as a person, as it pertains to how people regard him in society, is all good either. You know, that's why whenever someone says Ben Solo should have lived, a part of me is like, yeah, but like if Rey shows back up on Agent Kloss with Ben Solo, and he's like, hey guys,
he will spend the rest of his life in jail. I mean, I'm in complete agreement, and yes, it is loaded in a weird way. I think it's conflating. It's conflating some things with like a religious overtone. But no, he wasn't all good. He didn't make the right decision, and he died on the light side. But like, we all know that the dark side is a corrupting force, right? Yes. You can liken it to drug use. So while a druggie can go cold turkey, that's like saying it should be easy to just like stop anytime you want. And like we know that that's not a thing that happens in real life with any form of like addiction or anything like that. So it seems clear to me why, but I get if that's how they're viewing it.
I also know that the main reason they want this to be the case, and that's Grey Jedi. And I think for the longest time, for the last couple of years, ever since 2019, we've been arguing it's not a thing, and that's not an opinion. It's the opinion of the story group. The dark side can't be controlled, and it will continue to feed on you. So it's not an easy thing. And the easier it gets to switch between the light and the dark, the more you disrespect Anakin in a way that is more so disrespectful than anything in recent projects that have been claimed to disrespect Anakin's legacy.
Speaking of which, I love how the later projects are showing Anakin in the suit. We're seeing him. We're seeing things that could compel him to return, but he keeps ultimately choosing not to. Obviously, he's not going to do that because it happens later in the movie. But I love seeing that reflection over and over again when he runs into Sabe. And that whole arc was like, there's so much weighing on him, and you could tell it was almost like he could have swayed earlier, but Palpatine's like, nope, you need to cut that out right now.
I also think that Anakin knows this himself. I think he chooses not to appear so frequently because of the guilt that he still has. Even as Yoda dies, and he still has the shame of all those that have fallen. You know, he shows up to Ahsoka to try to get her to open her eyes, to get past her mental blocks, but in so doing, Ahsoka's like, you know, hey, you were pretty bad, and he's like, that's not the point. Like, he doesn't want to make it seem like he's all good now either, right? He's like I think Anakin understands that while he was saved and the love of his son saved him, he is not totally without fault.
Yeah. All right. The Death Star should be no big deal. The main thing that seems cool about the Death Star is that it can destroy a planet, which, sure, that's scary, but any one of those Imperial Star Destroyers ought to be able to use their tractor beams to tow a big asteroid and smash it into a planet. Basically, the same thing happened in a recent episode of The Expanse. So they're keeping it vague for spoilers, but maybe planets in Star Wars have anti-meteor defensive capabilities, but if so, we've never seen them, as far as I know. Destroying a planet? Not that hard.
I mean, considering technology, I would agree with that statement, but I'm failing to understand the whole the premise is that it's not a big deal.
Is that the Death Star shouldn't be a big deal because just about anything can destroy a planet, right? And where I'm coming down on this is a misunderstanding of what the Death Star is. Yes, it can destroy the planet, but it is a mobile battle station. Destroying planets is one function that it can do, but this thing could park in your system and just rule your whole solar system. So like only focusing on its planet destroying capabilities is a misunderstanding of the Death Star. In fact, the Death Star weapon wasn't even created until much, much later in the process. This is a mobile battle station first, which is how it's always referred to in the first movie.
Yeah, and I think the other crux of that argument is it was the size of a moon. Like we saw in the original trilogy, a Star Destroyer crashing into it, and what it crashed into was a flat surface, meaning the radius of the actual... I mean, we have it in meters. I don't remember how many meters it was, but if a Star Destroyer is landing on a flat surface and you can go outside and look at it's a flat road in front of you, that means the radius is
Star Destroyer.
so big. The radius is so big that a portion of it appears flat to you, and that's big. And so couple that with what Chaco said, that it's a mobile battle station that has planet-killing capabilities. It's also a big deal in that you can't easily deal with it without having the weakness baked into it. Like, it would take a whole hell of a lot of energy, just like it does to kill a planet, to destroy the Death Star. And that's why they needed the energy of that nuclear reactor. Or not nuclear, fusion reactor.
Yeah. Additionally, yeah, you could probably tow an asteroid and have it destroy a planet. That's actually like a Thrawn tactic from the books. But that would take forever. First of all, I think we're underestimating the amount of mass that's in an asteroid. Because like they're big, right? But they are solid. They aren't. It's not like another ship, right? It's a lot of mass. It's going to take a lot of energy. If you're towing one, you're not jumping into hyperspace. And if you do launch it at a planet, it's going to take a lot longer to get there than shooting your laser beam at it.
Yeah. Also, Master James Kenobi says, that's from The Last Command, the asteroid towing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the third Thrawn book. Um, let's see here. We'll do one last one because I know you got to go.
I mean, it's it's flexible. It's not like I gotta clock in or anything.
The best days will always be behind us in Star Wars.
Is that from the perspective? Is that diegetic or is that?
It seems to be partially. So here's what it says. There seems to be one constant, unless you're looking at tie-ins like the High Republic, where Star Trek seems to always be looking forward to a brighter future. Star Wars is always looking back at some fallen glory. The Republic, the New Republic, the non-evil institutions we even hear about are the ones that have collapsed. Lucas constantly insisted that he wanted Star Wars to be about the Vietnam War, but in a lot of ways, his films are more about American melees that set in starting in the mid 1970s when the US stopped feeling like an unbeatable superpower and started to feel more like a sick giant. Part of the essential conservatism of Star Wars is a sense that the past was nobler and better, and the future can only aspire to be a pale reflection, a force ghost, if you will.
I disagree with that premise. I think a look back at the past has always been a lesson for the future. I think you know, we try to remain as apolitical as possible when we talk about Star Wars itself, but in the context of this take and in the context of Star Wars politics, the look back at the past is always a reflection of what they need to change about the future. And the thing that always threatens that vision of the future is, and I hate to say it, conservatism. The Empire, the corruption in the Senate, and then the First Order again, they're all causes and movements to keep us from moving forward. They want to go back to an era where they conquered, right? They even though the Jedi and Sith War and the Sith Empire is not canon in the strictest sense, those events are canon, but the events that happened in them are still legends. The Sith conquered the galaxy back then in the Old Republic, and the Jedi had to go to war with them over and over and over again to achieve progress. And they did achieve progress for thousands of years, for generations. And then what happened? It was a Sith that was, that wanted to bring back the glory days, that made the current government fall and turn it into an empire, right? And it was an asymmetric group of people who defeated that empire and brought about peace. And then what threatened them again? Remnants of the old, remnants of the empire, remnants of that ideology that wanted to go back to being in control. Which is why I want to stop going in. I just want to exit the Skywalker saga already and just kind of explore a little bit more nuanced social commentaries with, just like, we keep saying, does the galaxy need the Jedi? Those types of questions. But yeah, in the broadest sense, the old is always looked at as something that the villains want to get back to, not really what the protagonists or what's perceived as the good guys want to keep.
So I fully agree. Star Wars has always been about the good guys keeping the bad guys from returning to tyranny. and trying to move forward. But I will say, technically, they are right, because a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, all the stories take place a long time ago, therefore it's behind us. Lawyered.
True.
No, but everything you said was was correct. I still laugh at how the First Order literally wanted to make the galaxy great again.
I guess I agree with the premise, but their characterization of the premise is a little flawed.
Exactly. If they only said the premise, I would be like, I agree. And then if they explain it, I'm like, oh, we are not on the same page.
Yeah. We could do one more.
All right.
Spooky Kitty says, my hot take is that Anakin isn't the chosen one. Grogu is, and Anakin is what you get when you get the prophecy wrong. I think that could be the case too. And like his redemption is just completely an anomalous thing.
The Jedi Order would benefit from a lot of schisms and a lot less hierarchy.
I disagree.
All right. I also disagree, but I do think it could make for some interesting storytelling. Now,
I mean, we do have the Great Schism.
well, why did the Jedi Order fall in the first place? I would argue that the main vulnerability was a centralized hierarchical structure in which the Jedi Council dictated policy for everyone. Imagine if the Jedi had been more of a diaspora with 1,000 competing schools of Jedi thought, including some Jedi anarchists and some Jedi who reach decisions by consensus. The Jedi are proof that sometimes unity isn't a good thing, at least not if it means that everyone gets roped into taking part in the same disastrous project. When you consider all the different sects of Christianity, Buddhism, or Hinduism, it's downright weird that the Jedi don't have more schisms. I think they mean more sects.
I think, but I think if they do mean schisms, I think they mean more disagreements. You know, disagreements in ideology.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that they're looking at it like, you know, for Christianity, you have Protestants over here and Catholicism over there, and other stuff over here, and they want a bunch of different schools of thought for different Jedi. And I would have to say, again, this is leaning too much on solely thinking of the Jedi as a religion and not like what they truly are, because all the Jedis are very individualized. Now, that being said, there is a nugget of truth in what we said, what we know from the High Republic, right? We know that they weren't all anywhere near as centralized on Coruscant as they were before the Nile started doing their thing. And especially once the Occlusion Zone was set up, all of these Jedi outposts that were everywhere that had the Jedi taking part in those local sections and kind of reporting back, that's how it became such a single unified structure. And so I think they would have still benefited from kind of keeping that older ideology. But again, it's not like specifically a religion. It's an actual organization with a structure. You know, if you needed ships, right? If you needed equipment, lightsabers, stuff like that, that they have a centralized structure, and that's what's needed for these things to work, for assignments to work. And if you don't want to be part of that, you don't have to be. That's why we have way seekers and all this stuff as well.
Yeah, my biggest complaint about the premise of this is that they say that the Jedi are deciding on universal policy for everyone, which they don't. Right? They're named an order for a reason. It's just like the Order of Assassins or any other order. It's there primarily to maintain order, but they're not there to control any of their members in any given way. Just like we keep saying, how many people have we seen expelled from the order for not following the rules or for thinking differently? It's kind of it's an argument for indoctrination, but it's not. That's not what the Jedi do, and they're largely symbolic, right? And
Yeah.
the only schism that I would say was beneficial in the sense of the word that they're using it in was the Great Schism that created the Jedi, because before then they were dabbling in both sides of the Force. Which I'll point out that the people that dabbled in the dark side and went to Bogan to reflect and come back never came back.
They never came back. Yeah.
So I think for the most part, it's another conflation of what the Jedi stand for and what they actually do practically. Because no one decides how an outpost in Elfrona or an outpost on Banshee operates besides the people that are there leading that post. And like you said, they might need supplies and equipment, and they'll send back for supplies and they'll get it, but it's not, even within the hierarchy, there's still a council that votes on things, on measures that they need to take, and it's not a policy like it is a policy in government.
Also, there's multiple councils. That's another thing too that people seem to forget. But it's almost like
I'm painting the difference between a policy in government, which becomes law of the land, rather than a vote in Jedi Council, which just decides what they do in that current time.
Yeah.
Do they go to this planet? Sure, let's go to this planet. But they don't decide on matters that become a law of the Jedi,
Exactly. And they're all basically, being a Jedi, it's like opening up a Subway franchise.
True.
You can still do what you want. You can serve, different things. You have them as your supplier, but you're still operating your own thing. It's not like
my franchise
sandwich shops in general.
my franchise only serves BMTs.
See, again, you're making me think of Mitch Hedberg quotes. He's like, it says prices and participation may vary. I want to be a franchise owner who doesn't participate in anything. Hamburgers? Nope. We got spaghetti.
KG says, interesting comparison. It is very, very interesting. Some of these takes do come from a place of really, really well thought out premises. Unfortunately, their arguments are less so well thought out in terms of construction and epistemology, but I can see their arguments. I can see what they were going for.
Yeah, and all these arguments are, they're coming from the same person. This is just the first place I...
Oh, dang.
But...
Is this their wall of text thread?
Yeah. Star Wars is the poster child for stealing something. Let me do this again. Star Wars is the poster child for stealing instead of remaking. George Lucas famously tried it, but this one I fully agree with. George Lucas famously tried to get the rights to do a Flash Gordon movie, but couldn't. So he created his own thing instead. I agree and disagree at the same time. I'll go into detail. Said he also threw in World War II fighter jet movies, Japanese samurai films, westerns, and 5 other things into a big stew of mostly undigested influences. Star Wars is proof that it's often better to rip off instead of remaking. And it's too bad that the barriers to original VFX heavy filmmaking have gotten so much higher since 1977, since the best tribute to Star Wars would be to make something completely new that steals heavily from Star Wars. So, Star Wars was heavily ripped off of a lot of things, right? There's the Lensman books. There is Fourth World from Jack Kirby. There is The Expanse. There's just quite.
There's the Foundation too.
Yeah, the Foundation
Dune,
is definitely one of them. Dune, absolutely. John Carter, and George Lucas would absolutely, when he was writing it, he would sit in a room and would watch movies and would read comics. That's how he wrote it. So he absolutely ripped things off. But
I think
and people who watched the original movie in 1977, when you watched Star Wars, the people knew that this was an homage to this and this was an homage to that, and people understood that at that point in time. But that doesn't mean it's not something new.
Yeah. For the most part, I think the premise of this hot take is a gross reducto ad absurdum of what it means to the difference between derivative and inspired. Original works are always inspired. There's nothing that can truly be 100% original, because as soon as you come out of the womb, you are seeing things and witnessing things that make you go ooh and ah.
Unless you took someone like Nell, just like you found a random person out in the woods who was just like chickapay, just like floating around, and then you're like, write me a story, and then they did, and you're like, oh, that's new, that's unique. But
we know that they would write their story about the what they saw. We are eternal observers, and so anything that we write, even the stuff that I write, even the game designs that I come up with, is largely inspired by what came before. So, I mean, can works be derivative? Yes. Can works be inspired? Yes. But I don't think that's an argument that nothing can be original.
Yeah, I fully agree. And in fact, the very first iteration of the Star Wars script was a direct ripoff of Hidden Fortress, and they're like, we can't do this. And that's why he changed and added a bunch of things. Real quick, I see one from Nerf Herder Matt in the chat, and we can do that as the last one.
Do you both think Anakin deserved redemption? I've seen some hot takes saying Anakin didn't deserve to be forgiven at all, for all the murders and other atrocities. Deserved is a strong word. I would say that Anakin was redeemed, but at the same time, in the eyes of the audience, of the eyes of the people who are witnessing this story unfold, in the eyes of the people that have all of the information, no. I mean, we've seen all that he's done. And we know that that's him, right? Anakin and Vader are the same person, and I wouldn't necessarily say he deserved redemption so much as that it was inevitable, because again, he was conflicted throughout the entirety of him being Vader, and that's something that we as the audience are privy to, the information that we have. There are some people that just only knew him as Vader. Some people in the galaxy only knew Anakin. Some people in the galaxy thought that Anakin died during Order 66 and Vader is the one that killed him. Right? And so this is one of those tropes or cliches that I like, that I like Birdman ascribes to CinemaSins. This is you assuming the people in the movie have watched the movie cliche.
Yeah, I mean, for that, I'd say the Star Wars universe has like its own unique definition for redemption in this case, which is it's unique because it is an act of choosing the light when you've been dipped in the dark, you know. But that redemption is not atonement, and that redemption is not forgiveness. And those are very separate things. So he was the person who was standing at like the precipice of the end, right? Anakin, you know, his status as the chosen one, they were about to hit the point of no return, of like there's no one left to fight this fight. And Anakin at the last moment stepped up and allowed them to reverse the damage that had been done all this time. But again, forgiveness, the only person that forgave or knew anything of this was Luke, and it's because Luke didn't know anything. Leia understood him at the end. Did it use the word forgiveness? Did she forgive him when she died?
She accepted him.
She accepted it, but she didn't forgive it. So like even his daughter still remembers the feeling of being in a room with Vader's hand on her shoulder, watching her planet be destroyed, right? Having him come into her room and torture her for hours on end, and screaming until her voice is, you know, her throat is raw and raspy. She didn't forgive none of that. You know what I mean? I think that was pretty ingrained in there. So I think that everyone who's become part of the Force, all the Jedis who believed in the prophecy, were elated when Anakin finally fulfilled the prophecy at the end. But no one forgave him. And he did not do any atonement for the damage that he caused over time.
Yeah, I like to think of like how it should have ended. And I just imagine a scenario where he chooses the light, becomes a Force ghost, and then he's like, "Thanks, Master Yoda, for saving me." He's like, "Talk to you, we must." They just have like a bonfires, like everybody that he's killed and stuff. Also, that song, it's always going to be Anakin's Dark Deeds. The song didn't change its title.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this Yoda's Hut. Thanks for hanging out, guys, for like 3 hours. This is
well, not for me, but
yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Always love doing this and just hanging out, not having really any kind of format to follow, just chat, just to hang out with you guys. But thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Yoda's Hut on this Friday. Be sure to have read The Glass Abyss. We won't go too deep into the book. That'll be in our full review, but we will talk about some stuff that's in it. That is a highlight of the book for sure. But yeah, that's it, man. I mean, I don't have a particularly formal sign off for this show. I just kind of say bye. But
all right.
But I do have this.
Peace out, players.
I wish that kept playing. Bye, guys.